Two of the Oscar Pistorius sentencing hearing at the North Gauteng High Court. Pistorius was convicted of culpable homicide on the 12th of September by Judge Thokozile Masipa for the shooting of his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp, and that was on Valentine's Day last year. Well, Chriselda Lewis has been following this case very closely. She's been there from the beginning, and she, of course, sitting in on the sentencing right now. And we cross to her now to find out what to expect and to discuss yesterday's proceedings. Chriselda, another good morning to you. Yesterday, 3 witnesses called. It's moving quite swiftly, I must say. Many people expecting it to go on for a bit longer, but at the pace it's going, would you expect that most of the witnesses will be finished by today?
Well, Leanne, there's much speculation outside court about exactly how much longer we're going to be here at the North Gauteng High Court. But of course, we're only expecting from the defense its last witness today, who will be the probation officer, who's expected to be called basically to give an implementation plan of the possible house arrest, and if this court does grant that sentence, how that plan will work. And then the defense will of course wrap up with the probation officer, and then we're expecting the state to call its first witnesses, and we're expecting it first of all to be perhaps one of Reeva Steenkamp's friends. I'm also getting some indication that it might even be Oscar Pistorius' ex-girlfriend's mother, Samantha Taylor's mother, but I'm yet to verify that, Leanne. I must emphasize that point, but certainly the state would want to drive home the impact of Reeva Steenkamp's death, what that has had on Reeva Steenkamp's family and friends.
Yeah, I know that many people were expecting that perhaps Reeva's family, i.e. her mother or her father, may actually take the stand. But I think that's been quashed. I don't think that's going to happen. Perhaps you've heard more.
Well, Leanne, it's certainly not going to happen. I have officially confirmed that neither Reeva Steenkamp's mother, June, or Barry will take the stand. What we're expecting is a victim impact report to be read out by the state, detailing what financial and psychological effects this has had on the Steenkamp family and friends. But we're not expecting any of the Steenkamps to take the stand, but definitely, Leanne, probably one of Reeva Steenkamp's friends, or as I've indicated, perhaps for the state might be Samantha Taylor's mother.
Okay, so they're only will the state only be calling up 2 witnesses?
Well, we understand at this stage it might be 2 or even 3 witnesses. And very important to note, Leanne, is one of the people who's really been inside court is Brigadier Labuskaghni. You would recall that Brigadier Labuskaghni was one of the first people to come into contact with Oscar Pistorius after he had been arrested. So having him here, whether he's going to testify or not, remains to be seen. But certainly he would really give a lot of insight to assist the state here in giving an indication of what Oscar Pistorius was like after he had been arrested. What was Oscar Pistorius' emotions? How did he react? But of course, all of that remains to be seen. I will be able to confirm, at least in the next few minutes, exactly who those witnesses are.
Okay, so let's cast our mind back to yesterday and see what the defense brought up. Obviously, the case that they're trying to prove is that Oscar Pistorius is a broken man. He lost the love of his life. He is not going to do. It's not going to do him any good by going to jail. Perhaps put him under house arrest for 3 years. These are some of the things that were brought forward. So they're doing everything they can to get Oscar out of jail and rehabilitated in another way. What's the reaction been so far to the defense's stance?
Well, it certainly looked that way, and it was unsurprising, Leanne, that we would see the defense try to do, for lack of a better word, damage control to Oscar Pistorius' reputation. Of course, it suffered a significant knock in this case, where Oscar Pistorius was branded in a very bad light, and certainly to bring someone like Piet van Zyl, who we heard talk about Oscar Pistorius and how he cares for other people. He listed a number of these charities that he supports, as to try and convince the court in a last-ditch effort to say that Oscar Pistorius is someone who cares about other people, that also cares about other people, and that in his career, while he has excelled, he's also tried to help other people. And we certainly saw that with the therapist as well, who really tried to paint a picture of an Oscar Pistorius who was broken, who was remorseful for what he has done, who was acknowledged. Well, we heard the doctor say that Oscar Pistorius couldn't even continue with some of the sessions that he was involved in, and really trying to prove to Judge Thokozile Masipa that Oscar Pistorius is a good man, that what happened on that day was a mistake, and then by bringing in as well the correctional services official, really to try and say that Oscar Pistorius does not need to be behind bars. His conduct, as Mr. Maringa had put it, Joel Maringa, the correctional services official, he said Oscar Pistorius is acceptable in society, but what he was critical of course, was the fact that Oscar Pistorius does not know how to handle firearms. But in a nutshell, what he was simply saying is that Oscar Pistorius can be rehabilitated outside prison. He can go back into society again. He does not need to go to jail. But that has certainly, both on social networking sites and the people of Pretoria that we've spoken to just outside this court, it's really been met with staunch criticism.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, I was also watching social media at the time. I was seeing the reaction and speaking to people, and a lot of them saying the recommendations of Maringa, and for those of you that missed it, the recommendations from Maringa, the Mashaba Maringa, who is from Correctional Services, saying that he would recommend 3 years correctional supervision with 16 hours of community service a month, involving domestic work at a museum or a hospital. I would imagine there would be an outcry in South Africa. I mean, I think Nell's reaction, Gerrie Nell's reaction to that suggestion was absolutely, he was completely, is the word disgusted at even a suggestion, or horrified, I think is a better word, at the suggestion of house arrest and a little bit of domestic work at a museum for what he's done.
Basically what Gerrie Nell is saying, certainly he showed quite a lot of irritation at that recommendation by Joel Maringa, and what he basically said was that, does Joel Maringa honestly think that that would fit the crime that has been committed here? Reeva Steenkamp is no more. He even went further to ask Joel Maringa, does he even take into consideration the pain that the Steenkamps are feeling? So we're really going to see Gerrie Nell possibly tear in quite a lot into Piet van Zyl as well today, because you would somehow the testimonies were similar in that they really tried to paint a positive picture of Oscar Pistorius. So we really saw the state very annoyed at that recommendation by the defense in trying to convince this court that Oscar Pistorius should not spend a single day in jail, and that there are other rehabilitative methods that could be implied in this case for Oscar Pistorius, for lack of a better word, to pay for what he has done.
Yeah, I must say, when I was watching the case yesterday, and please, I do stand corrected on this one, this is just from my observation, when I was watching the reaction of Reeva's parents, sitting in the stand, I mean, you saw her father leaning forward, barely looking at the witnesses, June looking down the whole time, just with that almost, for me it almost feels like they've lost hope in the justice system. I think the ruling perhaps of culpable homicide as opposed to murder may have really affected them in quite a bad way. What was your sense sitting there? Do you feel that they are expecting the worst, and that perhaps some of these recommendations are exactly the way the judge is going to sentence Oscar?
Well, it's very difficult to say at this stage, Leanne, which way Judge Thokozile Masipa a decision will go. Of course, we still need to see who the state witnesses are, and then, of course, Judge Thokozile Masipa will at a later stage give a decision on this matter. But in terms of the reaction from the Steenkamps, it has always been a reaction of disappointment from the point that the murder charge had been thrown out of court when Oscar Pistorius was found guilty on culpable homicide. While June Steenkamp has not said it to the SABC, the interviews that she has conducted with other international media, she has certainly indicated that she is not happy. She does not feel that justice has been done, and I'm really gauging a sense that she will be relying on the state at a later stage, and all indications are that the state would appeal this case if it is found that the recommendations that Joel Maringa has made do fall through in this courtroom. So, June Steenkamp continues to sit stone-faced, and Barry Steenkamp, the position that you speak of, Leanne, of him leaning forward, he consistently sits in that position throughout the proceedings, and you can almost tell by the pain on his face. I've asked him several times when he walks into this courtroom, how are you feeling, Mr. Steenkamp? Of course, they're not going to say much. He'll say, I'm okay, thank you very much for asking, and he would proceed again. But it's very difficult to tell. But obviously, from the surface, you can tell it is one of a broken family who feel that justice needs to be done in this case. And South Africans are saying that justice needs to be seen to be done in this matter.
Yeah, certainly. Chriselda, we've run out of time, but I think just a very quick question to you and a close, just to wrap everything up. So we're going to see one more witness coming from the defense, then we'll see the state witnesses coming up. In your experience of dealing with cases like this, how long does sentencing usually take? The judge obviously going into recess for a while. What are we looking at? Could it be weeks? Could it be another month? What do you predict?
Well, there have been several surprises by Judge Thokozile Masipa, you would recall as well. When she made that ruling regarding culpable homicide, we were expecting that to take place much after she'd actually given that verdict. But it's very difficult to say, at this stage, how much time Judge Thokozile Masipa would need. But much speculation has it here is that at the rate at which we're going, there's of course the last witness that the defense will call, and then we're expecting Chriselda to call at least 2 or 3 at the maximum witnesses here today, and then there would be some sort of adjournment. For how long, I cannot say at this stage, and then Judge Thokozile Masipa would come back and of course give her ruling on this matter.
All right, thank you so very, very much for joining us here and updating us. Chriselda Lewis outside the North Gauteng High Court, where Oscar Pistorius is about to appear once again, the second day of sentencing. And as you heard, the defense bringing their last witness onto the stand, and then, of course, the state, they start with their witnesses and then the cross-examinations.